Myself, Ross Saunders, Cameron Coburn, Nick Duncan and Adam Wright, a group of university undergrads that will be looking at testing battery to assess the physical status of basketball team using physiological and biomechanical theories. For purposes of anthropometrics, it's important to identify players' somatotypes, as this reflects to the player's position and subsequent roles. According to positional roles, players were categorized as guards, forwards and centers due to their body compositions. Centers are taller and heavier than guards and forwards respectively, whereas forwards are significantly higher and heavier than the guards. Centers had more body fat and have more body fat compared to forwards as well as guards, along with the vertical jump power being significantly higher in centers. Previous studies have also determined a strong relationship between body composition, aerobic fitness, anaerobic power, and positional roles in professional basketball players. The chart behind is statistics, average statistics from the 2013 and 2014 NBA season. Some of them will reflect to different players in comparison to others. For example, the passes per game at 72.06 will be reflected of a point guard, whereas rebound chances per game, both offensive and defensively, at 19.31 would be more of a centre and a power forward statistic.
Okay, so here we have the physical demands of the game. So the basketball game lasts for 48 minutes. This is split into 4 quarters, and this also includes stoppages within the game. This means that there's a lot of time for recovery. This allows high intensity work to be done throughout the game. 3 quarters of the game time has been found to be played above 85% of maximum heart rate. This is regardless of gender, age or ability level. It's been found that 34% of movements are running and jumping. This requires lots of ATP for high performance. Also, 22% is lateral. This is metabolically more demanding. S&C coaches should then develop strength and stabilisation in frontal and sagittal and transverse planes. So sprint times have been averaged to be at 1.7 seconds throughout the game. So this means, because of the short time, that focus should be on acceleration rather than top speed. It was also found that there's an average of 46 jumps per player per game, and jumping has been found to be 20 times more costly in terms of energy when compared to walking. So we have approximately 1,000 changes of movement in each game for each player. This results in a change of direction every 2 seconds. This means that each player has to decelerate and then re-accelerate. This means that a lot of ATP is used, which means that fatigue sets in quicker. As I said, their movements are very high intensity with the jumping and the running and the lateral movements. This requires energy mainly from the ATP-PC system. It's been found that there's a 1 to 3.6 ratio of high intensity to work to rest. This means that there's not enough time for creatine phosphate to be replenished. This means the body then uses the anaerobic glycolysis system. This system creates a lot of lactic acid, which then leads to high fatigue levels.
Based on the research and evidence that was highlighted by Adam and Ross on the previous slides, as a group that we identified strength, power, speed and agility were the 4 main physical characteristics that a basketball player will be demanded of. From this, we designed the following testing battery that is highlighted on the screen here. This was designed from the recommendations of the National Strength Conditioning Association. Their recommendation was that when designing the testing battery, we designed it on the first test being the less fatigue, going to the most fatigue for the last one. This allows for the optimal fatigue levels, allowing us to get better results. This, starting off with the first test that we'll be doing on the testing battery. This will be testing height, mass and skin fold. Second, we'll go onto a movement screen. This will consist of doing an overhead squat. first of the four main characteristics of the game is power. This will consist of two tests, a counter movement jump, which will be single leg, followed by a squat jump. Then we'll go on to the RSI, which will consist of a depth jump test of a 30 centimetre box. Then we'll go on to a second physical characteristic, which is strength, and that will consist of a 1 rep max squat. Going on to an agility test, which will be a T test, and acceleration, which will help us identify the speed of a player, which will be a 10-metre sprint, followed by an anaerobic capacity physical test, which will be a short repeated sprint, which will be 12 by 20 metres.
The test and battery, as follows in the order of the selected performance test, are with the rationale and justification. First, we have the height and mass along with the skin fold. As indicated earlier by Ross, this will dictate a basketball player's positioning on the court. Movement screen is incorporated to identify any muscular imbalances that the athlete may have, whether it be overactive or underactive. This is incorporated to make sure that we promote longevity towards the athlete's career. A video is incorporated into the slide as follows. So here Cam's going to undergo a corrective exercise movement screen to eradicate any muscular imbalances and promote longevity towards the career of the athlete. Overhead squat. Perfect. One from the lateral view. Great, and the posterior view. Excellent. Counter movement jump, single leg and right leg. This is used to detect the lower limb power of the athlete. So here Cam's going to undergo a counter movement jump, single leg, to identify the lower limb power of the athlete. So hands on hip, one leg away, dip and jump. Excellent, good. And change legs. Good. Squat jump is a measure of jump height to detect the jump height of the athlete, lower limb, which is a key attribute towards basketball players. As earlier mentioned by Adam, basketball players perform a mean jump height of 46 jumps per game. We're now into the RSI, Reactive Strength Index, which has a high correlation towards jump height. The video as follows. So here we're going to measure the RSI, Reactive Strength Index. Adam's now going to step on top of the box. His hands are going to be on his hips. He's going to take one foot off, and then step off, and the minimum contact time on the ground. Perfect. 1 RM squat is shown to have a correlation between vertical jump along with acceleration, another two key variables towards the game of basketball. So here we have Cam, who's going to undergo a 1 RM back squat. This has been shown to correlate with jump height within basketball along with acceleration within the sporting field. Over to you, Cam. Excellent, and rack it up. The T test, which incorporates the movement patterns which relate to basketball, covered up. 10-meter sprint. Acceleration is an indication of the athlete's linear speed, which he performs within his sport. 12 times 20 meters. There's a need for an anaerobic test to be performed within the test and battery as a baseline of his anaerobic capacity.
Me and my colleagues, Ross Saunders, Nick Duncan, Adam Wright, and myself, Cameron Coburn, have used the current literature, physiological and biomechanical theories to develop a testing battery based upon the demands of the game that we evidently researched throughout the presentation. These testing battery is used for talent ID schemes and monitoring team progress throughout the season for a number of different S&C coaches, from amateur to elite level basketball. These are a list of our references.